What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am your host, Rockin Robbie Billups, for PCP Movie Night, and we are finishing up Crew's Choice. It's been that time of the year, and now we're wrapping it up with Brian's pick, Isle of Dogs, the Wes Anderson-directed film, stop-motion animation, starring a brilliant cast of voice talent. But speaking of a brilliant cast of voice talent, we've got Brian with a B in the house. This was your pick, my man. Welcome to the show.
Well, glad to be here. Thanks for letting us do these picks, and awfully glad to talk about this movie. I picked this one because I knew you hadn't seen it. So
okay. Well, thank you. I enjoyed this film, but we'll be getting into that. Also joining us is Joe Corallo. What is up, my man?
Whoa. Not too much. Just enjoying the company and talking about a Wes Anderson film, which is something I love to do.
Yes. I mean, and a Wes Anderson film I haven't seen, so I'm excited to get into it. Plus, by the way, real quick, you got a book out right now with Rachel Pollack?
I do. It's called The Never Ending Party. It's through Comixology Originals. If you have an Amazon Prime membership, you can read it for free. And if not, you can read it for $2.99 digitally.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, congrats on that, man. Yep. Then we got Hammer Time Holshoe in the house. What's up, my man?
What's up, man? How's it going, guys? I'm always down for a Wes Anderson film. Robbie knows this.
Yes.
He's like, I didn't even have to say anything. I said, I just assumed you would be on a Wes Anderson podcast. I was like, yeah, I'll be on the show.
Yes. I also just assumed he would be here, and he is. He never disappoints. It's Jelani. What's up, my bro?
I'm good, man. Good to be here. Great movie to watch. So glad to be here to talk about it.
Hell yeah. And of course, we cannot have the Alpha Dogs circumnavigate the panel tonight without Brooks to back clean up. What's up, Brooks? How you doing?
What's up? Good.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Isle of Dogs. So I never saw this film for some reason. I remember it coming out. I wanted to see it, but I just never got around to it. Wes Anderson, at least it was a 2018 film. I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I was trying to watch it a little bit last week, but I had a lot going on. I was getting ready for Heroes Con and whatnot, but so I just wasn't into it. My thoughts and conscious thinking, which is just another word for thoughts, were on something else, and I couldn't pay attention to it, right? So I came home yesterday, and I just kicked back after I was done unpacking and just watched the movie. Really, really enjoyed it. So, Brian, you picked this one, obviously because I hadn't seen it, but also because I hope you like this film. But what are your thoughts overall? A brief and concise overview, if you will, of your experience watching the film.
Okay. I absolutely love this movie. I've liked every Wes Anderson movie. I mean, pretty much my favorite movie is Royal Tenenbaums. So I mean, I missed this one in the theater though. that was a busy year. And so like I went ahead and bought it on Blu-ray without even seeing it because I knew I would dig it, and everything. And watched it with my wife. She's a big dog person and just freaking loved it, And then
you're married to a dog person? She's a big dog person?
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's wild, man.
Yes. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. It's Alabama. But yeah, but yeah. And then, when you asked, I just was like, I remembered that you hadn't seen this one. So, pick that. And then, watched it again for, when I watched it on my birthday a couple weeks ago. So that way I could sit down with my wife and daughter and get their opinion. And they both liked it. And it was my daughter's first Wes Anderson movie. And so she's,
wow.
Nice.
she popped that can open and we're going to watch Royal Tenenbaums next. So
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I obviously he had done the stop motion thing before with Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I love that movie. So I was excited to check this one out, but the process of it technically had improved a lot with Isle of Dogs. Like it was absolutely phenomenal. What about you, Joe? What are your overall thoughts on the film?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I pretty much enjoyed more or less his whole body of work. The first movie I snuck into because it was R and I was in 8th grade at the time was Rushmore.
Nice.
I still remember I bought a ticket to the movie The Other Sister and then snuck into Rushmore. I have still never seen The Other Sister and cannot tell you what it's about. But yeah, and oddly enough, similar to Brian, this is one of the few Wes Anderson films I didn't get a chance to see in theaters. I missed this one. I missed Darjeeling Limited in theaters. I've seen it, both of them since then. But yeah, everything else I was able to make it to see in theaters, including The French Dispatch when that came out into last year. But no, I really enjoyed this. It has a lot of those same little elements that we'll get into later from Fantastic Mr. Fox. But seeing him just doing that, the dry humor and all that, and the stop motion, it all just it really just it hits all my buttons. I just really enjoy that kind of stuff. But I'll stop now. Let's continue the celebration of Wes Anderson.
Well, nobody's better at continuing a celebration than John Hammertime Holshoe. So what'd you think, bro?
Man, I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was one of those films that I'm in the same boat with Brian. I'm a big Wes Anderson fan. My favorite's Royal Tenenbaums.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't seen this in the theaters. That was also a time when COVID kicked off, and wasn't there a period where theaters were closed? I don't remember having the ability to see this. Either they weren't carrying it at my theater because it was Fox Searchlight. Something happened where I was unable to see it theatrically.
It was 2018.
Yeah.
Was it 2018? I can't remember. I can't remember what kept me from seeing it.
But it wasn't in the theater for a while.
Yeah,
for
there
very
you
long
go.
time.
So I bought it as soon as it came to Blue. And it's going to happen to me. What happens every damn Wes Anderson film. I buy it on Blu-ray day one. And then like a year later, I got to buy it on Criterion Blu-ray because all his stuff goes to Criterion at some point. And I really enjoyed the film. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it. I watched it again recently, and it's a little darker than I remember. I mean, they talk about, killing the dogs, and then the thing with the killing the master, whatever, the samurai thing. I mean, I'm rewatching it like, man, some of this shit is a lot darker than I recalled it being. But I enjoyed it on the rewatch, and definitely Fantastic Mr. Fox was obviously Wes Anderson's foray into doing something that wasn't his property. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't original. And obviously he enjoyed doing, stop motion animation or whatever, and decided to do, his own concept. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I think it's great on the rewatch, and it's Wes Anderson. It feels like a Wes Anderson film, and I loved it thoroughly.
Wes Anderson's got this sense of production, and everything's so symmetrical, and he's got this way of framing that's very much like a play, right? Like stage play. And it's so meticulous with its detail, right? That I can imagine that he loves doing it this way because he has full control.
Oh, yeah.
Of every little bit. Like, oh, I need this, so build it exactly the way I want. And visually, it's a treat. Speaking of a visual treat, Jelani, what you think about this film. And this was your first time watching.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen this movie. I never really got into this. I guess it just wasn't on my radar. But I heard of it, and then I watched the Oscars that year, and this is, I think, Into the Spider-Verse beat this one. So, I mean, I get it because that was awesome. That's the thing. But now that I watched it, I really enjoyed it. I really thought that, at first I thought it was going to be a little slow for me because, Wes Anderson movies do have that dry humor that go throughout. That's just like, I get it. Sometimes I get it because Royal Tenenbaums is my favorite Wes Anderson movie.
I'll just go ahead and say it's my favorite as well, just to get that out of the way.
Yeah.
It's so freaking layered. It's the perfect ensemble cast, and this movie does the same thing. And it splits the stories well. It's like watching a fun cartoon, like a big, but it's a modern day fable. And the way it's told is brilliant. I love the Japanese aspect of it. I love how they let the original character actors do their own voice. It's so well made, and the music is fantastic. It's a brilliant story going into it, and I was shocked because I was like, I'm mad I missed this. I'm really mad I missed it. So I mean, the achievements alone, like with Chief, I love just his progression, how his story goes, but it's little pieces of this film that I've just put together, and it's so much fun to watch once you get into the story about how this cat hating guy has a history of cat hating and wants to kill all the dogs. It's the weirdest story ever, but yeah, it's a Wes Anderson film, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Speaking of okay with it, I'm okay with Brooks. Brooks, what do you think about this film? Also a first-time viewer.
Yeah. I like this movie. This is a movie, I remember seeing the trailer for it and thinking like, oh, that looks interesting, because it wasn't too long after Fantastic Mr. Fox had come out, and I'd really enjoyed that movie. But it was one of those movies where I saw like, oh yeah, I need to watch that, and like it just kind of slipped my mind. I just kind of forgot about it until, and then like this time it was like, oh, now I have to watch it. So
yeah,
I was like, okay.
That's the good thing about PCP movie night. Sometimes we get to watch movies we've been waiting to watch, and sometimes you have to watch a movie I picked that you didn't want to watch, like Cobra or The Funhouse or something like that, right?
Funhouse.
It's the way it rolls, man, around here. All right. Well, a fantastic voice cast in this film. 100%. Brian, what's your favorite character / performance?
Let's see. It's really hard to choose. Really hard. But I don't know. One of my favorites was Gondo, who ended up with the hacker, partly because I thought the hacker was so funny, even though it was only 2 scenes, but it was just like, I don't know. It was just super funny to me. But yeah, that Gondo scene I thought was pretty cool.
Is that the Harvey Keitel?
Yeah.
Keitel one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
with the fucking like Two-Face, right? With like
the
fur peeled off.
That shade. Yeah. That was one of my favorite parts. Is he stopped every once in a while, just go, oh, they'd all do it. Yeah. It was, I don't know. I like that scene a whole lot, but I don't know. There's so many good ones. I wish we had a little bit more of Oracle too. I like that one. That was really fun.
She knows the future. No, she watches TV.
Yep.
And then it's like, and then she's with Khonshu, right? Like, right? Because the other dog is Khonshu. F. Murray.
Yeah.
F. Murray Abraham.
Yeah. It's the ancient one with
Khonshu. Jupiter. Yeah.
Yeah, Jupiter. That was his name, right?
Yeah. And I do want to give a shout out to Yoko Ono being in it.
Oh yeah.
Did you notice her character had the braids that said Y and O, like for her name, like the little blocks? I was like, that's so much detail. So much detail put into this. It's just gorgeous.
Nice. So you're going with Harvey Keitel.
Yep, going with Harvey.
All right. That's nice, man. What about you, Joe?
Again, there's a lot, which is good because it's a decent sized panel here, and you want to have some characters for everyone to talk about. But because of that, just thinking about it, I'm going to go with Edward Norton's character. Was it Rex?
Rex, yeah.
Because
I love how all their names are like kingly.
Right? Yeah, they're alpha dogs.
Yeah.
Rex, King, Chief.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just so
Yeah.
like, well, we're gonna have a vote. You've been outvoted, like all that stuff where he's just this like by the book guy, and as the movie progresses, you know, the switch with Chief and like later on when they're on the the conveyor and they're coming and Chief's down there with it and Rex is just like perplexed, like, wait a minute, like you're a leader now, what's going on? Like that whole like hit that moment like really solidified it for me when he was just like, wait, what happened? You're telling us you have good ideas? What is this? But there's so many little moments where like Chief would like not want to go along with them, and Rex would like say something and then followed up by, well, you were outvoted anyway though, so
Yeah.
like just all those like dry moments with him. I just love it.
Yeah. It's some really great delivery from him too. And there's something about all these voice actors, they come through in these performances, like almost as if it's tailor-made, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's just do whatever. Add your personality to this animated dog. Speaking of animated dogs, Hammer Time Holeshoe is married to an animated dog.
It's true. I wonder if she's related to Brian's wife, who's a giant dog. Yeah, there's such a great cast. Again, we got all the staples, of course. Wes Anderson works with all these great actors, and of course, if he's doing an animated film, he's going to bring all his buddies in. So there's obviously you got new people like Bryan Cranston, but most of the people he's worked with before: Edward Norton, Goldblum, Bill Murray, Francis McDormand. But Bill Murray kind of stood out as boss. He's the represents that
mascot?
baseball. Yeah, he's a baseball mascot. And he's got the jersey, and you later see him reunited with the team at the end of the movie. I like that.
But didn't their winning streak end?
Yeah, because of him. He joins up and they lost their winning streak. So I do like that. I mean, they love baseball in Japan, so I was like, oh, I like the idea. There's a baseball dog. I also really liked after the rewatch. Like I remembered, like, oh, I like this person and this person and this person. And I forgot how much I liked Scarlett Johansson as Nutmeg. And I love the whole, like, she does he's like, trick. Oh, show me one of your tricks. And but she always elaborates something like, oh, I'm supposed to have a bowling ball or flaming, something crazy. And he's like, yeah, I can imagine that. Or whatever. It's just so many absurd things that she's doing. Yeah. So I thought she was really good in it. I forgot she played Nutmeg. The whole cast is phenomenal, really. And I was going to one I put aside that I was going to say that Brian brought up was, I love Oracle, just the fact that she can, and he already brought it up, but the fact that she can recognize and understand the TV, and so she's like knows the future. It's gonna snow tomorrow. Oh, she can read the future. That's so absurd, man. But the whole voice cast is really phenomenal. It's just phenomenal.
Absolutely. What about you, Jelani? What you think?
I'm surprised. I'm gonna pick the boy Atari as my character. I really liked him. Yes. Yeah. I liked him. I like he uses his own language. I love that. It is awesome. It is the conviction that he has in his face when he's telling them, like when he first meets the dogs and they're in this room and he's like trying to talk to them, like get them involved with what he's trying to do, and he's so serious. It's just his face. I don't understand a word he's saying, and there's no subtitles. But it was so awesome. Just the way his conviction went in that entire thing. He was willing to fly a plane onto a trash island to find his dog. It's just such a great little story. It's a boy and his dog, and it's a story of a boy and his dog. I know we're getting to that part, but I just like how he portrayed it. I like his relationship with Chief. I like his relationship with Spot. It's the cutest thing. I don't know what it is.
Yes. And how prepared he is.
How prepared he is to do all of it. Yes. He is ready. He's down.
Biscuito.
Yeah. Biscuito. He had it ready. So yeah.
This is the best food I've ever had.
Yeah.
It's salty. Well, it's crunchy.
Well, Jelani, you might like this then. This is the manga version of it, and it's very Atari focused.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So
the Ward.
Oh wow, look at that.
Dope.
Yeah. I like that.
Good pick, man. Good pick. What about you, Brooks?
My favorite character was the I can't remember her name, but the girl with the giant blonde fro.
Tracy Walker.
Yeah, I love because throughout this movie, everybody's speaking in Japanese, all the humans speak in Japanese, so you can't understand them. And she's the character I think that speaks in English, so you can actually understand her. And she's it's odd because you can tell she's been in Japan for a while, but she always talks in English, and I think she only speaks Japanese one time. But I love her stern face, she has that kind of determined look to her, and I really liked at the end, where they're talking about passing a law. What should you do to somebody who gets caught kicking their dog? And she suggests the death penalty.
Yeah. They change it to
dude, that could be pretty bad because when dogs, especially when they're pupies, they like to run around your legs while you're walking, and I've accidentally kicked puppies a lot. So
Brooks,
I would be quadruple death penalty by now, probably.
Yeah, but at least they could make some money on some fines. I am surprised nobody said Chief. Chief is, that's the heart of the story. It's his journey, right?
Yeah, I was leaving it for somebody. I was trying not to get.
Yeah,
everybody's trying to be nice tonight, including Brian, who got to go first because it's his pick, and he chooses Harvey Keitel, but that's okay. But no, Bryan Cranston's great. The whole I bite, and then that whole moment of introspection when he's like, "Why did I do that? Maybe I was just afraid. Guess I've always been afraid." Just that journey of self-awareness, and then becoming something better and it's so touching, his journey with Atari, the way that develops and goes, and it's not where I expected the film to go. When I first watched it, I was thinking that Rex was going to be the main dog at first, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then you get into that story, and it's great. And the one I had set up otherwise was Duke by Jeff Goldblum, because weirdly, I never see him not with these other dogs. So where does he hear all these rumors?
Yeah, rumors. Yeah, that was an amazing running joke through that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that.
Yeah,
dogs talk.
Dogs talk. You know how it goes, man.
And I like to gossip.
The movie style and structure, it's Wes Anderson style, 100%. And if you don't like Wes Anderson films, you won't like any of them, pretty much. But I love that, the texture that's in the film. I love that when they're doing somebody mentioned when they're fighting and the clouds, and it's just the cotton.
It's it looks like cotton balls.
Looney Tunes. Yeah.
When he opens up the serum and it comes out like that, and there's a little bit of 2D animation in there, and it just looks, and it's spectacular. It's spectacularly shot, brilliantly put together, incredibly lit, textured, colorful, amazing frame. You could make a print of any frame of this movie and sell it at a convention. Somebody could probably just do that at every Wes Anderson frame. I'm surprised more people don't do that. They rip off art from artists.
The next show.
No, I don't want to do that, man. But anyway, Brian, what do you think about the style and structure of the film? Hold on, I'm sorry, real quick. One thing that I don't like necessarily about the film is some of the structure. Brooks isn't here right now. I'll say this. His favorite character, I could not stand her because I felt like she didn't have much of a function in the story. And it kept taking me from what I was truly centered into. And at times it kind of lulled me when it got to those bits. You know what I'm saying? But so I think that story-wise, it kind of, there's just some moments off pace for some reason in my head, but the style of it is absolutely brilliant. Brian, with the B, what do you think?
Well, I understand what you're saying there, but I don't know. I don't have any complaints about the structure of the story and everything like that. I actually watched it again today, and third time still. I never get bored through any part of it. But to me, besides the voice acting and all that stuff is the that stop motion animation in this was just leveled up. It was like they were showing off. The part when they the science party was giving their spiel, and then they start throwing fruit, and then Yoko Ono smacks that fruit out of the air. It was just they spit the tick off and it hits the pole, goes in, just all this attention to detail and just everything. Oh, and the no play when they were doing the play and they chopped the head off, you know, and the head was always like rotating. It was just like, that was like, that was so cool, you know? And I don't know. Yeah. Still shots of this would sell really well. Actually, there's a still from this. That's my cover photo on Facebook. And it has been ever since it came out. And I took a picture of my TV to get it. It was where Atari is checking his height, like below the samurai blade at the park.
Oh yeah, for the ride.
Yeah,
I love that.
So
That dangerous ass slide.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many different scenes you could talk about, just how, you know, intense like all that stop motion animation was. And I think that, I wrote it down. The guy's name is Andy Gent, and they did do, it was the same guy that did Fantastic Mr. Fox with him. And I actually saw Fantastic Mr. Fox after this because somehow I completely missed that movie. and I love Fantastic Mr. Fox too, but this one, just I don't know, just the sheer amount of work they put into this.
I would love to see them
talent.
do Wes Anderson and that guy. I'd love to see them team up and do a Christmas movie. You know, just to kind of revive like that Rankin Bass kind of feel, but with something a little bit more sophisticated. That would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
Speaking
maybe
of
not as dark as this.
Yeah. Speaking of not as dark, a little fresh and sophisticated. Joe, what do you think about the style and structure of the film?
I really enjoy this, and in an overall thing with Wes Anderson, I don't think he gets praised enough for keeping his movies under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
In an age where everyone is giving us these bloated 2.5, 3 hour movies, this is a guy that sees it coming close to 2 hours. Is like, no, let's get it down there.
Put it down.
So, you know, one of the big benefits of that, like, you know, for me, I understand what you were saying, Robbie, about some of the things that would pop up and kind of drag a little bit, but the movie is short enough and the scenes tend to be short enough where nothing ends up feeling long and drawn out in that kind of way, where I never got to that point watching this where I'm like, all right, can we move to the next scene? Anytime I even start thinking that kind of thing, we already start moving. So I'm like, okay. So for me, that pacing was tight. Again, with the mixing the 2D when they would like be looking at like the security cameras and the footage, I thought all that was great. The big cottony mess when they would all like ravage something was like in Fantastic Mr. Fox, when they were all normal until they go to eat and then they act like lunatics. And I love those little touches like that. I loved how they handled the reveals of things, because like you were saying, like, not only do you think Baby Rex is going to be the lead character, but the way it's written and the amount of information they give you is like just enough. I feel like too many movies over-explain things, or they under-explain things to the point where instead of being excited about a reveal, you're like, that's what you're doing. But this movie does a very good job at like balancing that. Like, you think things like, okay, Chief's this stray, but he says he wasn't always like, he starts saying these things. It's like, is he maybe, Spawn? You start thinking those kind of things. And then all the reveals feel natural. Nothing feels like forced or shocking for the sake of it. It all feels like it's in line with telling this story, which, if you think about it, it's a simple story. So,
yes, it is a simple story,
exactly,
told in a complex way with the stop motion. Like, that's probably the most difficult way to make a fucking movie. Probably.
Exactly. But
forever.
Just the style of it, doing this whole thing where it's like it feels like they were taking a lot from ideas of like Akira and things like that, where it's like in the future but not that far in the future, and something really crazy's happened that has changed how Japan functions in a fundamental way. And I loved all that. I loved just the aesthetic, just this idea of like Trash Island, and like You know, that it's like, you know, talking about Dog Zero, which sounded like they're trying to do like a Godzilla thing, like that kind of stuff. Like there were all these like little things throughout that I thought really, everything felt like a nice touch. Like every time there was a little thing like that, it was like, it's a nice little touch there. And the movie just feels like it's sprinkled with that. And I like it for that.
Yeah. Speaking of being sprinkled with nice touches, Whole Shoe, what did you think about the style and structure of the film?
I think it works, man. It doesn't really miss a beat. Same thing with Joe. When I first saw it and he cleans Chief up, I'm like, shit, if that's his dog and the dog doesn't remember, I'm gonna be pissed. Like that's a dumb way. And come to find out it's not, and you find out it's the dog brother. I kind of like that, you know, when he gets cleaned off. But I do like the style. I do like the structure. I do like the cinematography. I like the art style. I mean, come on, it's freaking Wes Anderson. But all of his films, even the darkest films he does, because I think Grand Budapest Hotel at the very beginning is pretty dark, but everything he does has a whimsy to it. All his films are very whimsical, and this carries that whimsicalness throughout. And I enjoy it. I can't take any issues with any of the style or the structure of the film. I think it's great. I think it's done well. I don't think it's overly long. I don't think anything's excessively, you know, laid out. Things aren't spelled out. Everything works the way it's supposed to work. And you are right, though. You've all said it, that it does feel like a step up from the Fantastic Mr. Fox, some of the little cues and the little things they add. But I think it was kind of a learning experience for Wes of what he could do on a stop motion film. And so Fantastic Fox still looks Mr. Fantastic. I mean, Mr. Fantastic.
It looks that's stretchy. It does look stretchy.
That's a Marvel film. But the film still looks really good. Don't get me wrong. He also they were in the confines of, well, we have to elaborate this story into a movie versus Isle of Dogs. He has a little more wiggle room, obviously, being, you know, his own subject matter. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's done really well. And again, no complaints. I wouldn't change a damn thing.
Absolutely. What about you, Jelani? What do you think?
Yeah, this movie is pieced together very well. Wes Anderson had a good stop motion. There's no way in the world I could just do that. I don't have patience like that to get all every scene I need to get meticulously planned.
Do you remember that bit in Parks and Recreation when Adam Scott's character was like off of work or whatever for a long time? He's like, I've been doing this for fucking days, and he's like, this is what I got so far, and it's like what, 6 seconds or something?
Yeah, that's it. It's just that, and it's so fun to watch, because at first I was like, okay, yeah, it's fine. But when the mayor comes in, I love the aesthetic of the mayor and how he's standing there at a podium with a picture of his face in the back, and it's just staring at you. It's just intimidation. I mean, it's so cool. So they're little bits like that. And I like when Chief gets washed off and you find out he's the same breed as Spot. It's like, is he Spot? Could he be Spot? And Sport was trapped in a cage, and I thought Spot was dead. I mean, that whole realization where I was like, that's sad. You're just gonna show me Spot and he's trapped in this cage and now he's just dead. Yeah. Like, oh, it sucks.
That's a good scene though, man. When he pulls the key out and they're like, oh no,
it could have opened it.
You need a key.
You need a key.
Oh my god, it's like,
it's so sad.
The great thing too is the dogs are still stupid. They're still dogs. Yeah. You know, they're like human personality wise, but like they're still dogs. They get as much information as I think dogs have. Dogs are smart, but they're stupid. Let's be honest.
Dang.
How dare you, sir?
But yeah, it looks great. It's paced well. It does. I mean, I don't feel this long or overly drawn out for any scene. I mean, everything was meant to be there. So it's very, like I said, it's very well pieced together.
Hell yeah.
It just looks great.
Speaking of very well pieced together, Brooks, style structure, what you think?
Well, I like it. I mean, I love the stop motion style of animation, like we use in Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like I remember when I first would see clips of Fantastic Mr. Fox back before I watched it, I'd be like, man, that doesn't look not very good. But then I actually watched it. I actually ended up enjoying it a lot. I love the kind of the choppy movements, and it kind of works for it in a lot of ways. And the expressions and the characters, especially when like a character, like he does this a lot, but where a character just stares right into the camera.
Yeah.
And I mean, this movie is, it looks good. It looks like pretty much exactly like how Fantastic Mr. Fox was. But the story is like, it's its own thing. And also, another touch that I liked about this movie is how in the beginning, like all the characters are speaking Japanese with no subtitles or anything, because like the human side of the story is not important. Like all that's important is that, what the dogs are doing. So the dog's the only thing you need to understand.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, you start to get more, subtitles or translations when, the human story becomes more intertwined with the dog story and becomes more important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nicely put. Nicely
That's
put.
very true.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the music is composed by Alexandre Desplat, I believe, French film composer and conductor. He's not a composer because he does it for real. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, yeah, he's won many awards, including 2 Academy Awards. He won for Grand Budapest Hotel and The Shape of Water. I love the music in this film. It's got that Wes Anderson whimsy that Hammer Time Holshe was talking about. That comes across in the music, but it's got this heavy Kurosawa-esque epic Japanese
Or
tale.
that one song was actually the song from
It is.
Seven
It is.
Samurai.
100.
It is.
Dun, dun, bum,
Yeah,
ba-dum,
it's,
bum, yeah.
It's Kikuchiyo's theme. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works so well. The drumming, the way it's like, if you just listen to it on its own, like YouTube's got like a suite with a bunch of it put together, including that Seven Samurai bit. And it's so beautiful and epic for this very simple, what could be like a children's storybook tale, right? This very simple story. This music is adding so much, not just emotional weight, but like a scope that this is on the national scale. You know what I'm saying? Where the story goes further than just these dogs. There's so much more involved because it's about the societal shift and change going on in the country in this time that the movie's presenting. So I think the music is incredible. And I think it's one of the most near perfect scores on a Wes Anderson film. And then of course the use of other music. Wes Anderson does that a lot, but they do rely a lot on that score in this film, which I really appreciate. What do you think about the music, Brian?
Yeah, well, that's a good point because a lot of Wes Anderson movies have like a lot of songs chosen for all the things, and this one really only had I think 2 or 3 that had any lyrics, and when they were used though, like it didn't seem discordant with the rest of the score since it seemed sort of score heavy. I really like that one, the song in the middle where they're going through the island, and everything like that. I can't remember the name of that one, but it's such a cool scene paired with all that stuff. It's I don't know, it's perfect. But after I watched it with my wife and daughter, my wife was making fun of me to my daughter because I bought the soundtrack like the night we watched, like when we were done watching the movie, and I was playing it for weeks in the car. And she was like, "This is the worst driving music ever." But to me, I don't know. It was really good. But yeah, it's I don't know. I love that taiko drumming stuff too. With the big drums and everything like that. And yeah, they incorporated different types of Japanese music throughout it. So yeah, I just thought the music was fabulous. Oh, and just reminded me that Seven Samurai scene, that Kikuchiyo, that's actually that I don't know if anybody noticed, but that's the name of the not the foster family, the student exchange, the exchange students family. That was their name.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
That's cool.
I thought that was a pretty cool touch.
It's a nice little touch.
Yeah, another nice little touch. Yeah,
of many little touches. Joe, what do you think about the music?
Yeah, no, same thing. It's interesting how this movie, compared to a lot of other Wes Anderson films, doesn't have like a score of already like, like, oh, these are songs that Wes Anderson likes, we're gonna just get some, Brazilian guy to cover all of Bowie's songs.
Yeah.
Like, it's none of that. It's all this stuff like the scoring, and it does exactly what you want a score to do, where everything feels like it's enhancing a moment. And even
Mhm.
when there isn't like music playing, there's noise and things about, like, the movie always feels like it's alive, and that's important. It feels lived in, like that, with all the different noises that are going on, even in the quieter moments. And the moment that really leaped out to me, I think, is the same one that Ryan had mentioned, when it's like the aerial view and they're running across the island and you see, like,
Mhm.
you know, the trash on like both sides of them piled up. Like, that moment is so like invigorating. And yeah, it's again, it's like everything about that, the score, and not leaning too heavy, like more of a, like if some hack was directing a movie like this and they had someone like Yoko Ono on, they would be like, "Oh, can you write like some
Oh, God.
original music for?"
Let's not say
You
we
know?
did. No.
Yeah, but
Whew.
that's I appreciate that. It reminds me of that movie. God, it was the Bowie movie, The Man Who Fell to Earth,
Yeah.
where it stars Bowie, and the director was like, what was it? Bowie had written some songs and given them to the director, and he was like, "I didn't hire you to do this music. I hired you to act."
Yeah.
And wouldn't use any of his stuff. And then a lot of the stuff he wrote for that then got like rolled into the album Low, which is why it also uses like a still of Bowie from The Man Who Fell to Earth as the cover.
Nice.
But yeah,
Dropping
like,
the Bowie knowledge, Joe. Thank
yeah,
you.
Well, you know,
Bowie.
but yeah, it's pretty good.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. What about you, Hammer Time Holshoe? You like music. What'd you think?
What kind of asshole is like, no, Bowie, we don't want your music in our film? I can understand.
Yeah, exactly.
I can understand not wanting Yoko Ono on it, but Jesus,
Yeah.
man, it was David Bowie.
Yeah.
What an idiot!
And
Anyway.
that was 70s Bowie too.
I don't
Let's
care.
not-
I think
Yeah. Oh
it-
yeah.
You
That's
could have
even
said that it would have
better.
broken the illusion, man. Like when Will Smith's in a movie and there's a song and it's like you can't see
Wow,
anything
wow,
other than
Wiz.
Will Smith, right? You get what I'm saying?
Wow, wow,
Wiki
West.
wiki.
The what they should have done is had Japanese covers of Bowie songs throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, they just to keep that theme going in all
yeah,
of his
it's
movies
just
from
Bowie
now on.
covers, but whatever country.
Whatever country we're trying to represent.
The soundtrack
Yeah.
is phenomenal. Wes Anderson's one of those people that Robbie mentioned this. He's meticulous about all this stuff, and music's included. Like he's not sleeping on the music. There are some directors that I feel aren't as detail oriented as Wes, and the music is phenomenal. It's mostly Japanese music. You got "I Won't Hurt You" by the West Coast pop art experimental band. I really like that song. And that's in English, and that's a great song. It works well. Great lyrics. It's just a great soundtrack. It's really done really well, and it's having some of the classic stuff and some of the new stuff. It's very melancholy though, because it's kind of a melancholy film. So I don't know if I could listen to the soundtrack all the time because it's some of it's kind of depressing.
I don't know, man. When I was listening to it, I did feel like I was listening to like some Akira Kurosawa scoring.
Well, there
Like,
is some of that. I mean, there is
there's that in
that Kiku Chiyo's Mamba or whatever. I mean, there's some stuff in there that's more pick me up or whatever. Not but not as melancholy. But I don't. But the soundtrack's great. I mean, it works great for the film, and it's Wes Anderson. I've never seen a Wes Anderson film where I was like, oh, the music's meh. It's never been that way. He's meticulous, and he's meticulous with his soundtracks, and it's a phenomenal soundtrack.
Gotcha. What about you, Jelani? What did you think about the music?
It's all right.
That needs some Bowie.
It definitely needs some Bowie in Japanese.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great music, man. It's it goes well with this film, very much so, to the point where like I like the re-election music, the music towards the end. I really like that music. I don't know what it is, but it really pulls to me, and it's adventurous music at times. Yeah, it is melancholy at times, but yeah, it suits every aspect of this film. This score is fantastic. I mean, every piece of this film is put together so well, which I was surprised, very surprised. I really wish I watched it in the theater, with good sound. You know what I'm saying? Like that stupid sound, and oh man, it would be overwhelming That's all I can say about it. Because you guys have already touched on how good this music is. It's awesome. And yeah, of course, needs more Bowie.
Yeah. Does
Always
need more
needs
Bowie.
Bowie.
That's what Brooks has always said as well. Needs more Bowie. Isn't that right, Brooks? What do you think about the music here?
It's good, and like I like how this movie pretty much starts out letting you know what kind of music's gonna be in there. You know, with the dudes on the drumming. So and it keeps that sound throughout the movie. I think like the Seven Samurai song, it was like a little jarring because because I'm familiar with that song from like another movie, but it wasn't out of place. I think it worked well with the story. But yeah, overall, I mean, like it's a good soundtrack.
I see
enough
this
said.
film. A lot of this film is Wes Anderson showing like appreciation for what he loves about Japanese culture and the aesthetic of like their art and shit, right? And so I'm sure that music was used intentionally to like represent something about that. That's what I think, at least. Wes Anderson, like Joe said, usually just gives us a playlist of whatever he was listening to probably that month, right? Like, so, very intentional. All right, the theme of the movie. There's a lot going on here. Simple story, but we can be complex in the way we perceive things. So, Brian, what is this movie saying to you? What's it about?
Well, I guess I had two things that kind of hit home. One was loneliness, because Akira or Atari, sorry, Atari was looking for he came out of the coma, and his parents were dead, and being the distant uncle, use the word distant, and he gets this dog, but he's not supposed to have a relationship with the dog, so he's pretty lonely, and then Chief, pretty lonely existence, things like that, and it was like two lonely people finding developing an earned relationship, a very well earned relationship in the story, and everything. I don't know. That was just one of the things that stood out to me. Was and there's other people that had loneliness aspects, and everything that you could see, and so I don't know. I thought it was one of the bigger ones, and then kind of, I don't know if it's a theme so much, but how it kind of carbon copies like the despot form of government, and creating a disease, creating something to scare people about, there's a there's some of that exposition where they explain all that stuff, and then it ends with brains have been washed, wheels have been greased, fear has been mongered, which made me bust out laughing, but it's pretty dark, and that's kind of how,
especially after some of the conversations we had this weekend.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I was reminded of that when I saw that. Yeah. But yeah, and it's just like, but then you had the people standing up to it and everything like that. Yeah, I don't know, just kind of that, classic kind of revolutionary kind of stuff going. That
yeah,
so
100%, man. It's got a lot of pickups from so much Japanese art, like with cinema in particular, right? Like it's picking up all these threads from so many different things. We were talking about Kurosawa, but like that Akira bit too. I think Joe mentioned that earlier, right? Where it kind of has that kind of that feel. What about you, Joe? What's this movie saying to you?
I definitely think the loneliness aspect's there. Like that's all there, and I picked up on that as well. I think there's a lot about control through language throughout the movie, like about how because the way they do it, we only hear these characters through the humans, at least through these different translations and things like people are translating and transcribing, and it's done. It feels like it's done very intentionally. So we're never getting subtitles of the characters. So we're, as an audience, not actually getting the words that are coming from those characters. And having that control of language, it's an interesting theme. It's an interesting thing to play with. This idea of the dogs don't understand, like they're not understanding what the humans are saying. The humans aren't understanding the dogs. It's all about this lack of communication with each other. And the ending, it's not a violent ending. It all culminates to, we understand each other. like, see, now we're here. The dogs aren't bad. We're helping the dogs. The dogs are helping us, and that's what ends up, sort of winning out in the end. Is once they are finally able to properly communicate to the masses, then the conflicts resolve.
Yeah. Well put. What about you, Whole Shoe? What do you think? What's it saying to you?
I think they kind of touched on it already. You do have the friendship between Chief and Tari. And of course, Chief has like a redemption story. You know what I'm saying? I bite or whatever, but he ends up, being the good boy and having a relationship with Atari. And then they deal with that corruption, that corruption. They put the disease out or whatever to wipe out dogs. So they kind of deal with multiple themes. And then in the end, there's that justice. They ultimately they expose the corruption, and they can bring the dogs back and whatever. It's just it does have a happy ending, even though there's now the dogs make it.
It's a bit idealistic, I have found out, to think that once you expose corruption, people will just be like, "Oh, thank God for." Oh yeah, now we're gonna get rid of it.
yeah, that's true. That was unexpected because I thought I was like, oh, is this the ending? Is he gonna behead his adopted father? And it doesn't really end that way, but it is a little bit sunshine, happy and roses. But again, it does cover.
I mean, it's PG-13, bro. How is it?
Yeah. I don't want to see the NC-17 version of Isle of Dogs, but I really enjoyed it, man. And I think the theme it's simple enough, but it has some intricacies that it covers a lot and does it well. It's not overcomplicated, but I do like the whole corruption and the whole the suppressing, and then they poison the scientist there with the poison wasabi.
Yeah.
All things, and they were going to use the wasabi poison to kill all the dogs too. I'm like, is there anything else besides wasabi? There's no other poison.
That dude's like, this is yellow.
Yeah,
he licked it. Yeah. So
wasabi's green, baby. It's always green.
I love that whole bit when they're making. He's making the wasabi because I was like, wow.
He's like killing animals.
It's showing off, man.
Yeah, it's showing off. Detail, all like the crab legs and everything. I love. Again, that's just Wes, man. Just the detail oriented guy.
All fresh, man. That octopus arm was still moving, man.
Yeah,
still moving.
Crab ran off the table, man.
Hell yeah, man. Speaking of crab running off the table, what's up, Jelani? What do you think this movie's saying to you?
Man, yeah, you guys are nailing it. It's the boy and his dog story. It's just that the lengths you will go to find your best friend. And I really get that from this film because, like, once again, that boy flew a plane into an island of trash to find his dog. It's so cute. And the fact that it's just that story, just that simple story, that it turns into a larger implication of, how the world treats these dogs and how, I don't know how to explain it, just how the love of an animal is all that you need to get through things. I don't know how to explain. Yeah, don't know how to explain it other than that.
Yeah,
I just think it's really, I really think it's beautiful. And I think it's a great story. I really wish I watched it in 2018 on a big screen. I'm kicking myself because of how beautiful this was. I was like, dang, oh man, this has been so much better in the theater.
Yeah. Especially with that sound.
Yeah. I would have passed it, man.
Don't worry, you can just wait for another 10, 15 years. They'll remake it CG.
Yep.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Blasphemy.
Then you can go see it. Now that Disney's got a hold of it, bro. Trust me, they're like, I got a franchise. They're gonna start singing and shit, bro. You just wait, man. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be
integrated into the Avengers.
The Aristodogs is what it's gonna be called, or something like that. Speaking of the aristocratic dog lovers, Brooks, what is this movie saying to you?
Well, I think this movie is mainly about how that it comes to a point where we need to pass on the reins of power, to the next generation. Because, the mayor, he's very you can tell he's very a politician of his time. And, but in the end, he has to pass on the reins to, this other kid who's who has like way different ideas than him. And I love that, you know, when they're passing the Banish Exile the Dogs Act, like it shows all of the people voting yes on it, and they all have a cat next to them.
Yep.
I thought that was so funny. And like the cats never come up again. You never see them again. Yeah. It's never mentioned again. But like, yeah, it's
well,
like
part of that
idea.
opening story too about the cats, right? So
Right.
Yeah, and then they have them when they're in prison, though. They each have their cat when they're walking in.
Yeah, as they should.
It's just the idea that, you know, eventually just like times have changed and you have to, you know, be ready to step aside and, you know, let the youngsters make their way.
All right.
Which
yeah.
I wish more politicians, especially here, would get with that message.
That'd be
instead of
nice.
like greedily clinging to every last little inch of power they can. But you know,
I feel what you're saying, man.
Living.
I feel what you're saying, but then sometimes I listen to the young generation and I'm like, okay, maybe not.
There might be some out there.
No, I think some middle ground. I think Brooks should be in charge of everything. That's what I think.
I'll vote for him.
I'll agree with that. I'm going to start my campaign.
This movie is about the evils of cats, and I think it's kind of shit with its anti-cat message. To be honest with you, okay?
I knew that was coming.
Like Brooks pointed out, all they have are, you know, all the villains have cats. The cats, I feel like, I think it's alluded to that the cats are the manipulators of this situation, right?
Yes.
That's what it seems like.
Exactly
Like
what
the
it
cats
is.
are just kind of like sitting there. It's
Yeah.
like taking the matter. Of course, like he's doing what I tell him
That's
to do.
in there, man, and that's a bullshit theme and message, man. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. But
Cats are evil, dude.
yeah, y'all, no, they're not. You have all hit the nail on the head, though. A boy and his dog, loneliness, all of this stuff wrapped up. The idea of corruption in the government, passing the torch to a new way of thinking, a younger generation, and what they're thinking, and the merging of ideas. That's the thing, right? That Joe was talking about, where they can understand each other. They take care of each other. Whatever happened to man's best friend, right? So it's about all this stuff wrapped up in one. And then, like the philosopher, pop culture philosopher as well, friend of the show, Mick Jagger said, you don't always get what you want, but sometimes you just might find you get what you need. You may go looking for spots. You may be looking for that one thing you had in the past, whether it's a nostalgic thing, whether it's a person, whether it's a place. There's something about, like, maybe there's something you're longing to reconnect with, and you just can never get it back because it has changed as well. And you've changed, but maybe you'll find a new best friend, right? You'll find Chief, and maybe you'll find a new connection to something. And it's not always, and then still have the honor and respect of what came before. I don't know. It's just such a fucking nuanced film. It's great. I would recommend this for most kids. Like, once they're able to know that people die, I think they can watch this film. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you might have to explain some dog sex to your kids. So you got to be comfortable with that
Explain
one.
that you can't just walk around with something stuck in your skull.
Yeah, that was a weird one too. I was like, well, I don't know. He's got that propeller thing stuck out of his head. I don't know if that's affecting the way. I love this. I love it. I love it. And the other dog too, King, is God. It's the dad from Ghost World, y'all. And like all
Bill
the delivery
Balbin.
is yeah. All the delivery is just spot on and great. All right, time to rate the film. So you out there in the chat, if you've seen this film, how many digs do you give it out of 5? And Brian, let's kick it off with you.
It's 5 for me. I mean, I don't have anything to complain about this movie at all. I know. I mean, all I've said is, really good things about it. Throughout the show. I mean, I love this movie. I wouldn't have picked a movie to be on though that wasn't 5 stars.
I never thought you had been an anti-cat person myself.
I'm not an anti-cat person. I am actually more of a cat person.
Anti-catite.
I am more of a cat person, which kind of surprised me why, about that. But no.
I love a good dog too.
I thought that,
there's a lot of tearing up of dogs and Akira. God damn it. Now y'all got me doing it. Of Atari in this film. And that got me when you see like it hurts you sometimes, man, when someone does something good for you. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, man, I'm the worst person, bro. I don't deserve this shit. And that's what Chief's dealing with in this movie. He learns to love himself, man. He learns to let himself be loved.
That's true. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes we need that, right? We're getting that at the time. That's why, kind of hated it at first, but then, turns things around.
Absolutely. So a perfect score from Brian. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I think I have to give it a 5 as well. It's a really good movie.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. I mean, like, yeah. Isn't it? What else is there to say? Oh, shoot. What about you, buddy?
I give it a 6. Can we do that? Can we go past 5? I've never seen a Wes Anderson movie that was below expectations. I expected to be great. It was great. It's a 5. It's a 5 all day.
All right. All right. What about you, Jelani?
Yeah, I'll give it a 5 too. Yeah, it deserves it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's probably there's not really a thing wrong with it because it's Wes Anderson if he did a stop motion.
Yeah.
Again.
I was about to be like,
no, I'm just saying. It's just
what
Wes
if
Anderson.
Wes Anderson did a stop motion?
But it's even more Wes Anderson because he's got no outside influence. It's basically him with his own devices.
Him doing what he does best in a frame. It's basically the storyboard for a live action movie that he's already trying to make with dogs that he couldn't make with dogs, so he had to do it with stop motion because kids and animals you can't work with the best. So it is what it is. It is something I will watch again. I really, once again, hate I didn't see it in the theaters, but I will get a chance. 30 years from now when they do
when they remake
when they remake it in CG.
The next Wes Anderson film, you come over here, Jelani, we'll watch it on the big screen.
4D. No, man, it's not dark enough.
God damn it!
Yeah, the darks are not.
I'm gonna
quite
kill
rich
you
enough.
I'm gonna kill both of you.
Sorry, dude. Yeah.
Might need to
It's
upgrade.
okay though. Thanks for the offer.
What about you, Brooks?
Well, I was thinking I was going to give this one a 4.5 because I was comparing it to Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'd say Fantastic Mr. Fox would be the easy 5. I don't like this movie as much, but I don't like it really less either. So I could give it a 5 too. I think this movie was really, I really did enjoy this movie even more than I thought I was going to.
Y'all try and make me the bad guy tonight, man. I got to stick by what I was thinking, so I'm going to stick by it. I really like this film. I like it a lot, but I don't like it as much as some other Wes Anderson films. Yeah. I really enjoy it though. It's really good. So I will give it a 4.69. Is what I say.
Oh,
Nice.
Whatever.
I'm just saying.
You cat loving son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It's the anti-cat message. Kind of bothers me.
Propaganda is what got him.
You detractor.
Kind of bothers me. I do not like. I think that they're.
I knew it would, man.
Was Ariel like just staring at you?
I'm a cat dog person, but
I think they could have cleaned up some of
It's
the
a
tightened up
movie,
the
man.
story a little bit by removing the foreign exchange student, but I don't want to hate on Brooks's favorite character, so I get it.
Yeah, what the fuck?
That's right.
And she represents the youth movement. I get it. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. 4.69 for me. So that's a PCP average of 4.99969. Let's just say that, all right? Because it's 5 from everybody.
jeez.
Nice.
Just a little bit less from me. 62
Wow.
Lefty Blue says 4.5, and Two Gun Pedro says 4. You digs. So there you go. Yeah. All right. So no PCP movie night next week because it's 4th of July. So we hope that you're celebrating the Declaration of Independence in
Steal the
1776.
Declaration of Independence.
And still remember every day the American Revolution never ended. Still declare your independence. Let's move forward, not backwards, y'all. Come on.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, we got a Miss Marvel episode review and discussion with the PCP Army Bad Batch. Spoiler talk, not for episode 3 like this thumbnail would lead you to believe, but for episode 4. We've really been digging that show. Excited to check it out. Then we are talking about the Black Phone on Dylan's Horror Show on Saturday. I'm excited to check that out. I think I'm going to go Thursday night. And like I said, we're not here next week, but in 2 weeks, it's the start of Action Fest 2022, and we are kicking it off with the Lethal Weapon franchise. All 4 Lethal Weapon movies. And much to Mike's dismay, not the series. We're not doing the TV series. Just those 4 Lethal Weapon films. Be here when we kick off Action Fest. And I will also announce that the winner of the PCP Army Action Fest 2022 poll, by a very slim margin, beating out Terminator 2 and The One, was True Lies.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay.
Which is what I
Wow.
thought was going to win
Okay.
when we got that list
Yeah.
together. Not a single
Okay.
vote for Eddie Griffin's Blast, by the way. Not even for the person who nominated the film. So there you go. That's
Okay.
that's a little weird. All right, Brian, thank you for being here. Thank you for picking this movie and wrapping up Crew's Choice with us. You got any final thoughts, man?
No, yeah. Well, I'm glad I got, 3 of you hadn't seen it before, got to watch it. So, yeah, these are always really fun. I always like to, revisit things and see new things. And yeah, just thanks for having me. Good time.
Absolutely. Speaking of good times, Hammer Time Whole Shoe. Final thoughts?
Nothing, man. I have nothing in particular. Go see the movie if you haven't. If you've seen it, check out the rest of his catalog, man. Wes Anderson's a great director, and I feel that there are some movies, either Moonrise Kingdom or maybe The French Dispatch. I'm sure there's movies you've seen that you've enjoyed, and maybe you've overlooked some other Wes Anderson films. So go check it out. I don't think there's a bad Wes Anderson film in the bunch.
Yeah, it's actually got me wanting to dive back in because I kind of fell out of keeping up with his films after maybe Darjeeling Limited.
We
or
talked about
Fantastic
maybe
Mr.
doing
Fox or something.
a Wes Anderson podcast. I think that should still be on the table.
Yeah, because I haven't seen French Dispatch. I haven't
that'd be
seen
fun.
Grand Budapest, and I still haven't seen Moonlight Kingdom or Moonrise Kingdom. What is it?
Moonrise
Yeah.
Kingdom. Yep.
Moonrise
Kingdom.
I haven't even thought about. I haven't even seen that.
Oh.
So
That's good.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff.
we got to do that Wes Anderson podcast. Yeah, we got to do that. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I got to put together that Mel Brooks podcast, don't I? Goddamn. All right. Who edits these things, man? We gotta find an editor, man. Fuck this shit, man. Hey Brooks, I'm gonna send you a file, man. Just do what you can with it.
You want me to be your editor?
No, I really don't. Jelani, thanks for being here. Final thoughts, man.
Yeah, great to be here. Yeah, getting to Wes Anderson. He's pretty cool. And this was a cool little film. Glad I got to talk with you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
great.
hell yeah. Brooks, final thoughts.
Dogs are better than cats, dude.
Ah,
I'm
fuck
sorry.
off.
Oh,
It's true, dude.
shots fired.
I
Fuck
don't hate
off.
cats. I love cats, but dogs are just better.
All
They
right.
just
Is
don't.
your dog putting you up to this? Where's your dog at?
He's pulling my puppet strings back there.
Juju's got a fucking pistol to the back of him right now. Just like Joe, thank you for being here. Obviously, you
No
have
problem.
Never Ending Party out, but you also have a new announcement from Mad Cave. Like that news
Yeah.
dropped, right? So
Yeah, Dahlia in the Dark, issue 1 of a 6-issue series is coming out December 7th. So it's
a day that will live in
urban
live in infamy, Joe.
It sure will.
All right. Well, thank you for all being here. We really appreciate it. PCP Army. This has been our movie review of what was this movie called?
Isle of Dogs.
Isle of Dogs.
Dogs.
Don't forget Miss Marvel live review Wednesday night, Saturday night Dylan's Horror Show, The Black Phone, and in 2 weeks we kick off Action Fest with the Lethal Weapon franchise. It's all on HBO Max. All 4 of those films, by the way. So I'm just gonna say this, man. Station, pop, pop, boom, and
Now, I'd like 2 eggs over hard.
see, Brian, since this was your night, your pick, I didn't do that to you once because I just want everybody to know that I got Brian in like 20 D's nuts jokes this entire Heroes Con weekend, and it was just epic. So, all right, we're out, y'all, and remember, Robbie bites.